I'm Danny Wallace, and welcome to Be Inspired. We are here at the Impossible Manchester. We bring together the best speakers in their field to teach you all about spiritual connection, business growth, personal development. It is a one-stop shop for lighting up your life and your business.
I've seen Danny on Facebook, so I was curious to find out more about her and how she works. She's got an amazing energy to her.
I came today so I could sit in the audience and soak it all up, having spoke at the last Be Inspired.
I attended on Zoom in April and it was fantastic, and it had already changed my life at that point, so I knew that I just had to be in real life this time.
Be Inspired is an event where you can come and recharge, reinvigorate, get yourself plugged in, hyped up, ready to take on the world. Some people want to connect with their business and their mission message and share that to a wider audience. Some people want to reconnect with their story and use their experience as somebody else's survival guide. People often come to me and think, oh, I want to be a speaker on stage, and this process is so much more than that. We hang out like the weirdos, like the crazy people, the people that actually do something with their lives, that plug into things like personal development, safe spaces for us to grow, to learn together and to support each other.
I have loved every minute. I am super pleased that I've nailed what I wanted to do.
The whole experience with Danny, she really helps to pull that out of you, and she helps to make sure that you're prepared, and she's there like holding space for you the whole way, although I thought I was going to get my pants.
It has pushed me completely out of my comfort zone, but I've done it and it's an incredible experience, and now I want to do more.
There are a few ways you can get involved with Be Inspired. One is to join the Be Inspired Mastermind. Every 6 months, I open up 20 spaces for 20 incredible people to share their business and their mission message, and also work with me to really hone their talks so they can go and get booked, reach more people and make more money, honey. Or if you're not quite ready for that, just come and be in the room where it happens.
Be Inspired has been just such an incredibly positive experience for me.
Go for it and spread your message, because really powerful things happen when we all get together and connect.
You've got to be here, be inspired.
If you're thinking about buying a ticket to this event, do it now.
You can join us at the next event of Be Inspired on the 31st of March and 1st of April 2022. You would be a fool to miss it.
Good morning, everybody. I've just been watching that. For anybody who's watching, that's listening along, sorry, on Spotify on the playback, I actually played the trailer for Be Inspired 2022 just then in the opening credits, and there's a lot of me sort of talking to camera, like pieces to cameras, a lot of me kind of on stage. It is amazing. It makes me feel really excited. But I don't feel like I even look like me anymore. Like, who even is that person? That is crazy looking back on past Danny for a little second there. We're going to have to make a new advertisement for Be Inspired at the next time. That's insane. Like, I'm honestly feeling a little bit, oh, okay, so we can tell. We can tell things are a little bit different now. Like, there have been physical changes as well as health changes. I think because I'm sort of living in my body day on day, and it's sort of size and weight are not really the things that I'm talking about as part of my health journey. To actually, like, for anybody that's interested, I was formerly, when that was taken, a size 24. Not that there was anything wrong with being a size 24. This isn't about body shaming, but that's the size that I was on that video. And now I'm a size 18. And the difference in those like couple of dress sizes is insane in terms of physical appearance, in terms of how I look. Still plus size. I'm still a fat lass if I'm walking down the street. She's not skinny, but I'm a bit gobsmacked. Anyway, I looked awesome and I look awesome. And today I am here with you as I am today. How are you all? Welcome to the show, Rise Up Show with me, your host, Danny Wallace. I hope you are feeling good today. I hope you're feeling good. This our hump day and also our Wise Up Wednesday. So on a Wednesday, what we do is we get together, talk about the things that we've been learning. Often I'll have a guest on the show. Today I don't. Today it's just me and thee today. And there was a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about today. I was having to think, what we're going to do this show, how are we going to wise up this week, what we're going to be learning this week together. What am I learning at the minute? And it's really, really interested. Oh, Emily's got chicken pox and feeling sad. Sending lots of love to Louisa's daughter, Emily. I'm in for a dose of Danny today. I'm a little low energy. I have got your back with some energy this morning. I want to talk to you about optimism, positivity, false positivity, and feeling all the feels. So I created a post yesterday. I got a new sweatshirt. You know, I'm a fan of sweatshirt. I got this one. I can finally shop at Primark now, which is amazing. So I went into Primark and I got some, and I got a sweatshirt. And this one says, "Keep it simple," which is exactly what we're doing today. We're keeping it simple. It's just me and thee. But the sweatshirt that I got, I went to Asda's. Now, apologies if you say this in different ways. No, I'm not sorry, actually. I'm just going to say it. Some people say I go to Asda to do my shopping, right? I go to Asda to do my shopping. I happen to say I go to the Asda's. Some people say plural. I go to Asda's or Tesco's when it's not. It's just Asda or just Tesco or Morrison's, but it's actually Morrison's got an F. You don't go to Morrison, do you? You go to Morrison's. Excuse me. Marks and Spencer, for example, isn't Marks and Spencer's. I don't think it is. Anyway, I happen to say I'm going to the Asda's, which is right or wrong, according to many of you, but I'm not bothered. That's what I say. So from the Asda's, I got myself, and let me know in the comments, how do you say that? If you just pop in the shops, what do you say? I'm going to, do you say I'm going to Asda's? I'm going to the Asda's? I'm going to Asda? Like, what do you say? Like, please let me know in the comments. A little bit of Wednesday morning trivia there. So I went to the Asda's and I bought myself they've got a new, they've got their sort of spring line, their sort of winter into spring line just coming in George, which is their clothing range. And there was this beautiful mustard yellow sweatshirt there that says on it Optimist Society. And I was like, okay, I am down with that sweatshirt. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it because I like it and it's yellow, and also it will give me content. I'm going to be able to speak about this, right? I'm going to be able to talk about being an optimist, because one of the things that people plug into me, people plug into this brand for, people plug into this community for, is positivity. We're not a negative space here. We talk about things that matter. We talk about difficult conversations. Sure we do. But we do this from a place of love and from a place of optimism and from a place of hope. But in the past, and my post yesterday, which talked about, can you be too optimistic? Is there such a thing as too much optimism? Is there such a thing as being too positive, for example? Excuse me. Sainsbury's is Sainsbugs in your house, Nicole saying. I use the S on all but Asda, come to think of it. Do you go Tesco's? It is just Tesco. So why not Asda's? Anyway, I bought mine from the Asda's. We say we're going the Asda as a laugh. I'm going to Asda. Amy says it properly in inverted commas, but it's not really properly. It's the Asda's. So I created a post yesterday that was along the lines of, can we be too optimistic? Because in the past, as somebody who has ingrained into my habitual thought pattern, so this has been a conscious decision for me, even though it is a natural leaning, a natural tendency, I tend to look on the brighter side of life. Like I tend to be optimistic in any given situation. So that's optimistic when people have misbehaved. I will often be I will often be shouted at for trying to see the good in people. I will often, not shouted at, you know what I mean though. People will often go, "Oh, Danny, can you really see that in somebody?" It takes quite a lot for me personally to not understand that everybody comes from their place in the world with the information that they have. So if you see, I believe everybody is inherently good. Most people, unless you're a psychopath, everybody's inherently good. Nobody does things unless they are not a well person or a shitbag. And I think the shitbags are fewer and further between than we really give credit for. I think most people do things in order to preserve themselves. Most people do things in order, and this is somebody who's experienced domestic abuse, by the way. So this is somebody who, I've experienced shitbags. Like, I understand shitbagginess, but for the most part, I think that people do things not because they want to be bad. They do things with a different intent, and the intent sometimes we've got to understand a little bit more about before we can cast aspersions. Maybe they're behaving from a place of pain, maybe. And that's not me saying to anybody, if you're outside of the bell curve of normality and you're experiencing poor behavior from someone such as domestic abuse, for example, there is no excuse for their behavior. There is no, like, mental health issues or whatever. There's no excuse for that person's behavior towards you. If they're a perpetrator and you are a victim, there is no excuse for their behavior. So I just want to put that on the top of this before I get into general society, right? Hang on a second. What are you guys saying about this on the in? Dipty, good morning. Dipty is saying, I think this is a fab conversation. There's a huge difference between hope and optimism and toxic positivity for me. And that's what I want to talk about this morning, especially when it comes to feeling your true feelings. Joe Wildsmith is saying, I always used to think being a pessimist meant if things went well, I'd get a nice surprise. Does that make me an optimistic pessimist? Interesting outlook. I think that's hopeful. And I think that sometimes, I mean, for the most part, you'll be pleasantly surprised, I would like to think, and then you're not too let down. But for me, that would suggest there's sort of a grey cloud that lingers over some of the things that you hope for. That's just my thoughts on it. I don't think you can be too optimistic if you use optimism as a way to not deal with issues, which probably isn't healthy. Interesting. I made a conscious decision to try and think differently, more positively, after The Chimp Paradox and You Are a Badass. Both incredible books if you haven't read these books already. You Are a Badass is one of my favorites. I still have my outbursts, usually when driving, but it made a huge difference. When I think now how different life is, it's incredible. I think when you can become a voyeur of your emotions and reactions and situations, that it allows things to play out a little differently. I think most people live in a grey area, Nicole's saying, especially in today's cancel culture. There's far too much black and white thinking. I agree. I 100% agree with this cancel culture situation. I think there's a paradigm shift happening. I think in order for social change to occur, people need to be divisive and say the things that they need to say loudly and in a divisive way. And then what happens in the direct aftermath of that is you get militancy. So militancy, and I don't mean like sort of actual, like with artillery and stuff like that, but you get people who really sit on the podium of their beliefs and they will not be shaken, not be moved from it. And actually so much so it makes everybody else in the world wrong. And if you go through life like that, we could potentially dip in our toes, even if it's far, far left wing. You could be dipping your toes in fascism where that's concerned. So you've got to be really careful. Social change happens. That's the first tipping point. And the next tipping point is where the ideologies start to settle and we start to find out how we can include them. So I went to go and see Tim Minchin at Blackpool just before Christmas with my friends. And I'm a huge fan of Tim Minchin and his politics. Oh, I didn't know he was going towards politics today. Here we go, though. We're going to do it anyway. And he was saying about, there being you've got the left over here and the right over here, and everyone's being sort of almost like bubbled into factions. Then you've got vegans and vegetarians, and you've got people that are omnivores, people that are carnivores, for example. You've got religions, all of this sort of stuff. And everybody's sort of shouting about the fact that they're right, keyboard warriors that get into arguments over being right. Turf wars, for example, in the trans community, all of that sort of stuff. The LGBTQ community being separated into factions. Within members of the Black community, colorism being separated into factions, all of this sort of stuff. All these little pockets of beliefs. And actually the way to integrate isn't to be bashing. There has to be a degree of militancy in the first instance to be heard, I think. I think there has to be a degree, I mean, particularly on the topic of race, there has to be a degree of being loud and being aggressive where that is concerned in the first wave in order to be heard, you know, if we're talking about oppressed people, right? So, oh God, optimism to oppressed people, but we're staying within positivity. Who knew where this was going, but I'm going in. But after a while, in order to make things happen, in order to move forward, in order to create progression, we've got to be open to learning from each other. We've got to be open to having conversations that are difficult in order to move through, right? So that's kind of where we're at. And Natalie saying, love the diversity of these conversations. Oh, thank you. A lady called Africa Brooke talks about the grey area, which is awesome. I'll have to check that out. Thank you for sharing that. Jay-Z has an amazing interview with the New York Times talking exactly about social change happening through conversations off the back of controversial or prejudicial racial conversations. 100%, 100%. We can't create social change through just clobbering everybody with a club. Right, we can't do that. I'm right, no, you're all wrong, because we'll just be in our little bubbles, our little factions. We don't grow as a race, right? So these rise ups have to happen. These sometimes catastrophes, sometimes revolutions have to happen in order for us for the dust to settle again and find out what should normal be? What's this normal as we grow? What's kinder? What's nicer as a society? How do we move forward together? And one of the things that I love about Be Inspired particularly is that we get to have all of these different types of conversations. We get to have conversations about business. We get to have conversations about politics. We get to have conversations about spirituality. And there is no judgment on the table. Everybody's there to learn. I think there's a beautiful little microcosm of awesomeness that happens. That is the paradigm shift that needs to happen in the world, is us being open to learning from each other's place of intent. So what is the place of intent when it comes to, you know, pessimism or poor behavior? As an optimist, as somebody who prefers to see the light in the conversation, or prefers to see the light in people, prefers to see the light in a situation, actually understanding that people come from their place of information. Like they're behaving with the information that they've got at the time. And this really led me to, you know, the conversation around forgiveness where my dad was concerned. So my dad wasn't a very well-behaved dad. My dad wasn't for all he can't kind of defend himself now, he has an acquired brain injury and he's in a home. But actually, like growing up, seeing the way he behaved towards my mum, seeing the way that he behaved towards me and my sister, seeing the way that he behaved behind closed doors was very difficult in my not understanding him, in my not understanding his background, which I don't owe him, by the way, but still. It led me to find it very difficult to forgive him. In my own personal development journey, I realized that actually Dad had so many demons and was an addict and didn't know how to deal with these demons. He grew up in a time where, you know, there wasn't like a menkind movement. There wasn't like a men should be talking. There wasn't the, you know, Andy's Club situation. There wasn't the, you know, men can cry too, men can be sad too situation going on. There wasn't the talk about mental health. And the guy was riddled with anxiety, with rejection issues, abandonment issues. The guy was riddled with issues that were given to him by his parents. So he was dealing with what he knew at the time not very well, because he did it in total unconsciousness. He did it in total, like, he wasn't aware that he could be any different. He wasn't aware that he could learn any different. So it became easier over time, easier to, if not totally forgive, understand. And in that understanding, allow that distance and allow me not to be hurt by it, and allow myself to see in him something that I might not have allowed myself before, to give him that kind of, maybe not whole forgiveness, but that, oh, I get why you did those things. It's not for me. I get to distance myself from feeling bad about that anymore, because none of this was my fault. I didn't do anything to elicit that kind of behavior towards me, that kind of abandonment that I experienced, that kind of violence that I saw, all of that sort of stuff. None of that was my fault. And in allowing myself to become gradually more awake, it actually allowed myself to become more optimistic. Now, some people experience those things and allow themselves to become more cynical, to allow themselves to become more pessimistic. But actually, in pessimism and in cynicism, there is a degree of pragmatism. Oh, I'm using a lot of big words this morning. I swallowed a dictionary this morning for my breakfast, everybody. By allowing yourself to live in those more the more negative emotions, I guess, the more negative outlooks, is a form of protection, but also sits in considering unfairness and blame, I think. And so when you live in optimism, when you live in hope, when you live in seeking to understand, it actually allows you to solution seek quicker. Instead of saying, it's like this, it's not fair, life's not fair, that's just the way it is. Actually, as there was a lot of isms there, Katie, I'm so sorry about that. It just, all of the isms happened out my mouth then. They just tumbled out of my face. I couldn't help it. But be allowing yourself to consider sitting in a more optimistic space, looking at life with more hope, seeking to understand, actually what you end up doing is being able to navigate issues more easily than being cynical. Because if you're cynical and pessimistic and you sit, and that's where you sit pessimistic, then you end up kind of sitting in that, well, that's just the way it is. That kind of, I've just, for those that are listening that can't see me, I physically just threw my hands up in the air, because that's the kind of, that's just the way it is. That is a relinquishment. That is a, I can't change things kind of gesticulation. Oh, that's another big word this morning. She's full of it today, that Danny Wallace. Throwing my hands up in the air, that kind of, oh, that's just the way it is. Life's unfair. Throwing this away, actually physically with our bodies, throwing this idea away that we are not empowered in any situation in our lives. And I think I call bollocks on it. Because if we allow ourselves optimism and hope, and I'll get onto false positivity and false hope in just a second, doesn't mean that you're not a realist. It just means that you are open to things not turning out shit, or you are open to the fact that if you are thrown a curveball, you're better able to deal with it. That actually you can solution seek. There's a way through this. What are you guys saying? I'm interested. Kerry O'Sullivan, good morning, my angel. How are you? It's so lovely to have you watching along on the show this morning. Forgiveness sets you free. Those that have hurt you have been hurt, as hard as it sometimes feels to accept. 100% with you on that. That's exactly the relationship I've had with my dad. I released holding on to negativity. I was only impacting myself. Yeah, that kind of, when you hold on to anger, like that, where a particular relationship is concerned, you're drinking a poison that's hurting you, that you're expecting the other person to suffer from. Like, you're not feeding them the poison. It doesn't affect them. They're carrying on with their merry little lives. I've found that with people that I've been in previous relationships with, found that with my dad particularly. He was carrying on with his own merry little life, not knowing how much I was hurting myself, tying myself up in knots with. Me drinking the poison of hate and pessimism and cynicism and all of that sort of stuff, and expecting other people to feel the effects of it. It doesn't, there's only you that feels it. Understanding isn't forgiving or excusing, Nicole's saying, but without understanding, we cannot create connections. And it's connections that remove the shame and support growth and change. 100%. Yes. Pixie knows there are certain opinions I won't change, point blank. I'll grow within them, but not change. But you're open to learning that there are alternative ways of thinking, and then make an educated decision if you continue to sit on your podium, right? There aren't many, though, which is why education is key, not just having a go at people. There's a lot of keyboard worrying happening. There's a lot of keyboard warrioring happening out there. and often it is keyboard warriors, it's people that sit on their podium of their own beliefs and they won't budge from it, and everybody else is wrong. And what happens is there's this striving to be right. I have to be right in this situation. If I'm right, you're all wrong, and you're on the enemy lines now. And it's interesting. I just find it fascinating. The irony of a lot of woke people who think they see how things really are is that they can't see the past of their end, yet the end of their own opinions to understand. Yeah, exactly that. And that was, kind of what I was saying about the Tim Minchin explanation, or the Tim Minchin kind of theory, which is that there is essentially big things that need to happen, strong opinions need to be aired in order for the rest of us to be able to listen and go, okay, so where do I sit on this? Not, oh no, they're wrong, they've just said something, it's blown my little mind and I can't understand it. If you are an optimist and you live in hope, then essentially what you do is you seek to see where you sit on that. Now, if somebody stood on their podium and went, I want to kill all the babies, for example, then I'm going to sit on my little podium over here and go, I'm not down with that. That doesn't fall within my value set. In fact, it's pretty wrong. I'm going to protect all the babies from that person. But what is their thought around that? Is there a thought around that? What is that all about? And then make an educated decision to not engage, right? And protect all of the babies. Maybe could have done some more explanation around that. But do you get what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments if you get what I'm saying. Those awkward and difficult conversations had from a place of love helps with expansion and awakening of others. Yes. Nat Rich on YouTube has some really good conversations about this with other people. Perfection, right? That's what we want. Conversations to seek to understand. Right? Where has this thinking come from? Why are we thinking like this? What is the problem that has created that train of thought? And that way we can work through it. Difficult, yes. Difficult to navigate, absolutely. Necessary, I would hazard an absolute yes. Kerry said my nails are gorgeous. Thank you. Arr, I love a red nail. It always makes me feel powerful. A powerful red nail. Solution seeking is very valid and we should absolutely remain positive, but also still recognize that some things alongside not being our faults are tied in with discrimination. Yes. And the cards we've been dealt. You can still find humanity in those you don't agree with. That's something I've really learned through activism, and it's a great feeling. I love that. And I'm not sure who said this. Could you make yourself known if you feel like you want to? It says Facebook user, but that is beautiful. And that's the learning, isn't it? That's the learning. It's not just me banging the drum saying I'm an optimist and everybody should be optimists. It's actually, if you find yourself digging yourself into, it's Lindsay, of course it's Lindsay, I love you, my angel. If you find yourself digging yourself into the hole of pessimism and cynicism, that is a hole it's difficult to get out of, and it's also difficult to move forward from. So can there be too much optimism? Can there be too much positivity? Everything's grey, everything's rose-tinted specks. I think yes. I think, yes, there is. I think there's a degree of we will attach certain feelings to certain things. And sometimes we need to feel those feelings in their entirety in order to come through the other side and process. Our feelings and our emotions are a way to process stuff. There's good in everything. In the hardest things you go through, there is a gift. Always Kerry O'Sullivan saying, yes, yes. Now then, let's take that idea. In the hardest things you go through, there is a gift, but you get to a point in the hardest things that you go through where it feels very dark. And I know, Kerry, you're a huge advocate of feeling the feelings and kind of processing and working through things. One of the things that ended up saving me when I was in my darkest days, in the days when, when I kissed my children goodbye or goodnight and I didn't know which, the saving thought for me was, have I still got the capacity to learn here? Have I still got the capacity within myself to choose differently here? And the answer, it was very quiet at the time because everything else was very noisy, was yes. And even in those darkest moments, and ever since has brought me through. So when Dad had his accident and we were having to make decisions and take on responsibilities that nobody should ever have to take on at that particular point in time. I've had to make decisions in my life that, do I regret now? regret maybe isn't the right word, but whether the right decisions for everybody involved, perhaps not. I'm trying to rectify that now. Yeah. Keep coming back to what's the right thing. Am I doing the right thing? Am I learning? What's the learn here? How am I learning? Even when things get difficult, like when I got the phone call with regards to my dad, it was a dark day. I wasn't expecting to have to deal with dad yet. And I got the phone call. He's had a terrible accident. The first thing that I was thinking of, right, I'm going to be learning something here. I'm going to learn something about myself. I'm going to learn things about him. I'm going to be learning that's going to help my growth. And it was only through knowing that that's an actual process helped me deal with that and not fall to shit. And I didn't fall to shit during that period of time, even though it was one of the most difficult things I've dealt with. Optimism helped me work through it. But that didn't stop me feeling the feelings. So false positivity. False positivity is where you see people go, you just can choose to be happy. That's different. Like, happiness isn't always a choice. Sometimes there are dark days. Sometimes you are going to feel feelings that don't feel comfortable. But just as happiness is, sadness is transient. Anger is transient. Everything, every motherfucking thing is transient. And I think when you know and trust that, it becomes easier to manage. So perfect example of this is when we had to get the dog put down a few weeks ago. It was an awful, awful situation where my dog attacked another dog. And it was not feasible for us to. I had to make the terrible decision that my dog wasn't safe, and he bit other humans in that particular incident, and then that led to me saying, and there'd been the potential for that before, and we tried to train it out, and it had not worked, and there was obviously something not right. Even though indoors the dog was lovely with us, I had to make the decision to have the dog put to sleep for everybody's safety. It was a difficult decision, but left me with my kids blaming me for killing our dog, whereas actually what I was trying to do was trying to keep everybody safe, including members of the public, including the dog itself and our other dog and everybody involved. But my daughter, for the very first time in that particular instance, felt anguish, like real live anguish, the kind of visceral grief where you feel like the walls are tumbling down and you kind of disassociate from even the physical world around you, that kind of anguish grief. And it was all I could do was to sit with her and say, I love you and I'm here, and what you're feeling is absolutely normal. You're not feeling anything. It feels weird. It's the first time you felt it, but this isn't, you're not weird for feeling this. But I also need you to know that this feeling is going to go. So just like if you can't think of a time you've been happy, you've not been happy forever, this feeling, you're going to feel it. It's going to be big. But also it's not going to last. So I'm just going to sit with you until you feel like we're through the other side of this. And that's still optimism. That's still, so I think that it's false positivity. From a false positivity perspective, I would have been saying to my child, don't worry, everything's okay. You shouldn't be feeling like this. Come on, stop it. Shush now. Everything's fine. And that's like trying to elicit a false positivity, trying to elicit not honoring negative emotions. So as an eternal optimist, as somebody who will always seek hope, who will always seek understanding and seek solutions, that's not to say that sometimes I'm going to have dark days and you're not going to have dark days, and we're going to feel those emotions. We're not going to feel overwhelmed sometimes. Yeah, of course we are. We're going to feel overwhelmed, and we know that overwhelm doesn't last very long, and actually there are steps to get through overwhelm. There's hope on the other side of overwhelm. And I talk about overwhelm because overwhelm is something that I feel on a regular motherfucking basis. You see the level at which I level up all the time. I just smack myself in the ears then. But my trajectory is quick. Like, your girl's growth game is strong, which also means that sometimes it takes my little brain a minute to catch up, or I'll be on the precipice of something else and I'll stop still and I'll go. That's why I've written a book on overcoming self-sabotage. I've gotten in my own way a lot and continue to do. And it's good that I've got a team around me now that can notice when I'm doing these things, or indeed I notice it in myself so I can catch these things quicker. False positivity. Be grateful that you had a dog to love in the moment of feeling that anguish, right? That saying to somebody in the moment of anguish, you need to be grateful right now. No, you don't need to be grateful in that moment of anguish. You need to feel angry and sad and all of those things. And when that tsunami has pulled back, and it will, then you can consider gratitude. What are you guys saying? How are you feeling about this conversation this morning? Are you feeling hopeful? Are you feeling optimistic? Have you had any experiences of false positivity and how toxic that can be? So that's the kind of conversation that I wanted to have with this morning. How do we get through toxic positivity? Well, how do we identify it? When do we know that we're applying it to ourselves? And I think that's when we suppress our emotions. And when we suppress our emotions, actually we keep ourselves where we are. So it's like, yes, Kerry, it's like when people say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. It's like Ross, isn't it? Ross in Friends, when he asks, are you okay? And he's like, I'm okay, this is okay. I'm okay. The house is burning. You've seen the meme with a little dog sat with a broom at the table, house is burning around him. You just said, I'm fine. This is fine. Everything is good and great and fine. And it's not. It's absolutely not. Where are we? Amy Blaney, I've made some shockingly bad decisions, but I wouldn't go back and change. One, because they got me to who I am. Yeah, for sure. I needed each bad decision to learn from, and not saying I'm at peace with each bad decision, but I did the best at the time. Same. It's the keep calm and carry on mentality. Yeah, it's the like we're gonna keep drudging through this and that doesn't feel optimistic or positive, but that's exactly what it is. Keep on drudging through. So cynicism and pessimism sit in a place of blame, of poor expectation of yourself and others around you. And that is a slow path. To live in cynicism and pessimism is a slow path. And that's not to say that if you're an optimism and you seek hope and seek solutions, that you're not a realist. Like I could turn around today, for example, and say, I am optimistic that I'm going to earn £1 million in a week, right? And the super duper pooper scooper optimistic and positive people and action takers and solution seekers out there will say, you absolutely can, Dan. You can find a way of making £1 million out there. But the realist in me goes, do I want to do what it takes to make £1 million in a week? The answer is absolutely fucking not. So that's not pessimism or cynicism. That's like, what am I prepared to do for that £1 million? Well, unless it's served up to be pretty quick and I don't have to work hard for it, I don't really want it. So the optimism comes from, but in order to sustain my business, do I need successful launches? The answer is yes. Am I prepared to do what it takes in order to make those launches successful? The answer is yes. Do I want to do what it takes? And doing what it takes means serving my clients. It means turning up every day for you guys. It means doing all the things that I need to do in order to get to where it is that I'm going. Is £1 million next week the goal I really want? Well, the answer is absolutely fucking not. It's not. I mean, I'd like it. I wouldn't say no to it, but that's not cynicism or pessimism. Pessimism is, I'll never make £1 million. Never in a million years. I just won't do it. That's not the optimist in me knows that there is a way. There would be a way. What way that is, I don't know, because I don't want it that hard that I can't be asked seeing a solution to it, because it's not something that I want for me or my family right now. You can be optimistic and still recognize that there are barriers and be barriers you are disadvantaged by, and you have to get really good at being really chuffing kind to yourself. Yes, absolutely. And I think that is, anybody that tells me to check your mindset, I'm gonna give them a fucking wide berth. Yes, absolutely. And check your mindset. Your mindset is wrong. No, your mindset isn't wrong. Your mindset is the way that it is because of the information that you have. Do you want to be open to any more information? It's up to you. It's up to you. That's on you. So all the time living with a disability, other people are always saying things that are falsely positive. Yeah, Sarah, and I get that you're actually speaking about this, right? At Be Inspired. As somebody who has a disability, a person who is disabled, you experience this on the daily. You should be grateful. At least you can. When you might grieve at the fact that some things you just can't. And that's okay. And you feel those feelings and you move through, you solution seek. Okay, so I can't just do this. What can I do is the next question. So there you go. There are my thoughts on optimism this morning. And I'm feeling very optimistic. There are lots of incredible things that are happening in IATQB HQ right now, from a Flying Away Foundation perspective, from a business perspective, from a proposition perspective. There are lots of things that I'm cooking. I've got irons in the fire right now that you are going to be able to get involved with. If you've been thinking of working with me, for example, there are lots of things, very exciting things and new propositions that you can get involved with if you wanted to. It's all very, very exciting in my neck of the woods. And it is in that optimism that things start to grow. So you often find that in this hope space, in this optimistic space, in this solution seeking space, that things begin to snowball, things begin to take on a trajectory that is quicker than maybe you're giving yourself even credit for being able to achieve. If I look at where the Flying Away Foundation was 18 months ago, at point of, hey everybody, this is the Flying Away Foundation, this is the concept, this is where we're at, who's interested in supporting, and you guys go, oh yeah, that sounds good, I'm in, like, how do I do that? To being where we are now, where we're ready to take on our first business builders, we are ready to engage our ambassadors, we are ready to have a plan to open a refuge within the next 3 to 5 years, actually with a plan, with financing in place to make all these incredible things happen. That's happened because I've allowed myself to keep solution seeking, keep moving forward. That, and all of a sudden, me allowing that for a certain amount of time, when all the stars have aligned, it means that things have happened like this. It's crazy. Nicole saying, oh my God, you're so right. As a disabled woman, there are days when it's just shit. It's okay to feel these feels. And when I've grieved or had my moment, I dust myself off and focus on moving forward. Yes. Being able to feel permanently grateful is absolutely a privilege. Yeah, it's difficult. It's a privilege and it's difficult. And also when you're feeling those dark feelings, when you're feeling that difficulty, that it will take a hot minute for you to realize that there is something to be grateful for, right? So allowing that dark feeling to pass, the cloud to pass, or knowing the cloud will pass, is the thing to be grateful for. All right, I'm feeling really shit right now, but I'm grateful to know that everything is transient. You know, it's coming back to that. It is a privilege. October last year, I couldn't walk more than 300 steps a day, but kept telling myself I could walk more than 3 steps a day. Now I can walk 1,500 steps a day. And there's a little bit of a difference between saying I can. You know, we might, like Sarah, for example, she sat in a wheelchair and she might be thinking, you know, well, I can't walk. I can't walk 300 steps. And no matter how many times I want to tell myself I can walk 300 steps, that's still not going to happen within the realms of what she's physically able to do. But what can she do? Well, she can wheel herself forward and get really strong upper body strength. There are other things that can happen from a physiotherapy perspective to gain strength in, you know, other limbs, for example. But in the minute where there's an acceptance of that, that's not going to be able to happen for that particular person, that's all right to feel dark for a fucking second and go and grieve for that, for whatever it is that you may feel loss about. So there we go. There are my thoughts. I hope you've enjoyed our meaty conversation this morning. Please join us for more incredible meaty conversations that are going to make you think, make you act, inspire you, help you grow your spirituality, your life, your growth, your business. Make sure you get your ticket to be inspired. It's on the 31st of March, 1st of April. Get your ticket from imthequeenbee.co.uk/events. You can either come to the Thursday or the Friday, both, or even watch online. But I implore you to get your tickets if you want to be in the room where it happens with us in Manchester at the Impossible. Please, would you get your ticket, because they are starting to sell out. So many of you are going, oh, I'm going to be there, I can't wait to be there, haven't got your ticket yet. Don't be disappointed when they sell out. Get your tickets soon. We are 5 weeks away. So it's on the 31st of March, 1st of April. Get your tickets from imthequeenbee.co.uk/events. I've just been finalizing our VIP speakers. I've got some phenomenal VIP speakers for you this time, as well as our cohort of phenomenal. Like, there isn't a superlative enough for the quality of these speakers that I am bringing to you for this particular event. So I have 22 speakers for you across the 2 days, all of them bringing absolute value. If you're coming to us in the room, we feed you, we refresh you, we invigorate you, we entertain you, we educate you. You will have the best time, and there are no topics off the table. just like with today, and just like with the show in general. If you have a topic that you want to bring to the show, Rise Up show, look at this little belter coming here, bringing me through. Do you know he's doing this for show? He does this when I'm on the show. He shows he's a good little husband. Yeah, it's a good.
I'm not doing it for show.
He's not doing it for, he's doing it for show. He just brought me always a good brew and all. But if you've got a topic of conversation that you want to bring to the table, either to the show Rise Up show or to the Be Inspired stage, please do let me know. We'll be opening up the doors. If he's a keeper, if he brings a brew, he is. He's a good one. For all of the reasons, he's a very good man. And in my optimism, I found him, right. So, like previously, as a side note, I thought there were no good men, not one. And my optimism and my hope allowed me to be able to welcome him into my life, and he's a good sort, really. We like Wallace. So yeah, if you want to work with me on your messaging, there are opportunities available for you. Come and get in my DMs. I will tell you all about them. We open the doors to Be Inspired UK for our next UK cohort mid-April. So put that in your diary. If working with me and being on that Be Inspired stage is something that you are wanting to do. Sending you all so much love this Wednesday, this happy hump day. Thank you to those of you that have stayed with us for the conversation, to those of you that have dipped in and out, and also to those of you who are watching on the replay or listening over on Spotify or your preferred listening platform. You are amazing. Please, please, please do me a favor. Go to imthequeenbee.co.uk/events. Grab your tickets to Be Inspired. You will not regret it. And I'll see you on Friday for more showing up, wising up, and rising up. Take care.